Hi, it's Dwyer. October 2nd, 2023. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now let's talk about Canelo's victory over Charlo. Right now, I've been here online for a number of years now. And there have been fights where I've picked the guy, and the guy has been outgunned. And I can live with that. Apart from losing money on a bet, I can live with that. Right? You know, as long as I see the effort, as long as I see the game plan, the path to victory that my pick has in the fight, and as long as I feel that he tried his best, but that the other guy was just too much, I'll give you a recent fight involving Canelo, relatively recent. Right? Caleb Plant, I thought, was a live underdog. Caleb Plant was heroic in that fight. But you also saw in that fight that Canelo's a future Hall of Famer, and Canelo hit a lot harder than Caleb Plant. So, of course, Caleb Plant gets hurt by Canelo, tries to survive, even goes across the ring. Right? Canelo, of course, goes over and finds him and ends the fight. So after the fight, all I could say is, well, you know, I was rooting for Plant. I got beaten on that, right? I think I might have had a KO hedge in there someplace, but I can live with that. I think we could all live with losses like that, right? Hard effort. Your guy has his plan, has prepared, comes in prepared, goes for it, and the other guy takes his punch, returns fire, ends up victorious. Okay. You know, Charlo, I'm disappointed by this loss. Right? This loss really is worse than the usual loss. Because I just don't know. Other than trying to survive, I just don't know what Charlo was trying to do in this fight. Right? I mean, read the room. You're the underdog. You're the one no one thinks is going to win. You're the one going off at long odds. Charlo, by the time he entered the ring, was a greater than plus 300 underdog. Right? When I made my videos, he was a much lower underdog than that. Right? The world was in Canelo's corner. You understand, Canelo is a guy who shows up at 168. There are 4 champs. Canelo beats all 4 and wins the light heavyweight title while he's beating the 4 guys, including some unbeaten guys, Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith. Right? He's beating them. He's taking their titles. Canelo has the resume. More importantly, understand, Canelo is who Charlo wanted to be. Right? Canelo was fighting at 154. Canelo was fighting at 160. Canelo conquers 168. Canelo was fought at 175. If you needed proof that a fighter could go through weight classes, all you had to do was look at Canelo. You didn't even have to look at Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather or Terence Crawford. Let's mention his name. All you had to do was look at Canelo and say, well, it's possible to move up to a new weight class and dominate. So here we are in the first round, and not a lot of punches are thrown. I'm excited. Charlo is showing you the footwork, the foot speed that ultimately would allow him to go the distance. Right? So Charlo is moving around. He has to know, as I said in the pre-fight video, that Canelo, for all intents and purposes, enters the ring with a 2-round advantage. Right, folks? Canelo is the house fighter, and the house is the planet Earth. To beat Canelo, you have to beat Canelo. This isn't a photo finish type situation. So it's the first round. And you're looking at the first round and not a lot's happening. Understand, Canelo is trying to cut off the ring. Canelo's like Joe Frazier, right? If you go back and you look at the first round of the first Frazier-Ali fight, you'll notice Joe Frazier's throwing big left hooks. That was Joe's big punch. I got news for the public. That's Canelo's big punch. Canelo's trying to back up Jermell Charlo, and he's trying to land his big left hook. That's who Canelo is. He's a puncher. Right? So, of course, you get to the last 20 seconds of the round. Now, I admit I'm spoiled. Me and a whole generation. We came up in the 1980s, and there were certain guys in the 80s. Let's name one. I name them almost every other video. Sugar Ray Leonard. Right? You get to the last 20 seconds of the first round, where the round hangs in the balance. In other words, neither guy is hit with a haymaker. Neither guy is wobbly. Neither guy had to get off the canvas. So you get to the last 20 seconds. And if you're spoiled like me from the era of Leonard, Duran, Hearns, Hagler, right, Benitez, they're other fighters, Simon Brown, right? If you're from that era, you're expecting Charlo here to say, okay, this is my moment. I have the world watching. I know they think this other guy is too big and is too strong for me. I understand the other guy is Goliath. Right now, if you have the David mindset, you let your hands go. Isn't that what Ray Leonard did against another front foot heavy future Hall of Famer, right, who was bearing down on him, Marvin Hagler? Right, Hagler threatening just like Canelo. Closed the show just like Canelo. Got knockouts. In the last 20 seconds of a round where people think Hagler is just going to walk through Ray Leonard let his hands go several times. He stole rounds. He understood. He had to steal rounds. If he went in and had a lot of inertia and didn't make that extra effort, didn't realize that he's not getting the benefit of the doubt unless he makes the effort. Ray Leonard, in a situation like the first round of this fight, would have said, hey, I'm going to let my hands go here. I need to bank this round. There are going to be some rounds where Canelo hits me with hellacious shots and I'm woozy. And I'm not physically able to steal the round. Here, I'm fresh. The first round counts as much as the 12th round. Let me bank this round. Not only that, let me get momentum. Doesn't momentum take a while? You're at a fight. Don't you need to see the underdog prove to you that he belongs, and then you start to think by the third or fourth round, wow, this underdog came here to win the fight, to pull the upset. I mean, understand the Canelo approach. It's Canelo's belts on the line, right? If he loses 4 belts at 168. If he wins, he's not getting any of Charlo's belts at 154. It's Canelo's belts at risk. And you know Canelo's mindset. He shows up in the ring. His idea is, okay, here are my belts. Here I am. I'm willing to trade. If you think you can take my title, here I am. Trying to take you out with left hooks. So Canelo is there. Charlo is going side to side. The problem is, we get to the last 20 seconds and we find out Charlo's not Ray Leonard. Okay, we'll let that slide. 12 rounds, you got 11 other rounds. Right, the first round, okay, that's an apprehensive round. You're looking at a guy, you know Canelo has a big punch. You're trying to figure out the angles. Maybe you're caught up in the moment to the point where you can't think, okay, last 20 seconds, I'm going to let my hands go. So we get to the second round. We get to the last 20 seconds of the second round, which hangs in the balance. And Charlo doesn't let his hands go. By the fourth round, you're wondering exactly what Charlo's plan is. Right? Understand, there are other fights where guys were outweighed, where guys showed up at another guy's weight class. You know, when Floyd fought Oscar De La Hoya, right? I'm naming two Hall of Famers, folks. Oscar was huge in the sport of boxing. They were fighting in Oscar's weight class. You realize that Floyd didn't even come in weighing Oscar's weight. Floyd came in light. Floyd wanted speed. Right? Floyd understood he had to do more than Oscar because Oscar was the favorite. Because when you go to a guy's weight class to fight him, you're fighting the king in his castle. I'll give you a more glaring fight. Manny Pacquiao against Oscar De La Hoya. Understand, Pacquiao was going up, guess what? 2 weight classes. He had beaten David Diaz. He shows up to fight Oscar. Now, do you think for a second, by the way, another Hall of Famer, do you think for a second that Manny Pacquiao was in the ring and did not have the mindset of, okay, he is going to have to adjust to me? Right? I'm bringing my game. I'm bringing my fastball. My hand speed, I'm bringing my hand speed. Do you think for a second that Manny decided not to try to hurt Oscar? That Manny thought, hey, I'm going to passively be here and I'm going to be grateful to survive rounds? Let me tell you, there's a moment in that fight where Manny's corner guy, Freddie Roach, in the corner, looks at Manny, they look at each other, and Freddie, my words, not Freddie's, basically says to Manny, close the show. In other words, 2 weight classes, whatever it is, those guys didn't care. They were there to beat Oscar. There was urgency. Manny's throwing punches in bunches. Manny's bouncing around the ring, coming in. Oscar looks like he's in cement. Oscar ultimately loses that fight on his stool. Now, folks, in the comment section of this video, what I want you to do is to tell me the round where you feel that Jermell Charlo actually increased the intensity. That Jermell Charlo actually did things that showed you that he was there to win the fight. Right? I mean, folks, there's no blood and guts here. It's absurd, really, for me to be talking about this fight in the same breath as Pacquiao De La Hoya, Mayweather De La Hoya, Leonard Hagler. Right? It's ridiculous. Right? Because understand, in my opinion, there is no round here where you saw what Charlo was doing and you thought, okay, he's come to win the fight. This is his strategy. Right? You didn't even get the idea, as you do in some fights, right? Foreman Michael Moore, that Charlo's trying to tire out Canelo. That Charlo's waiting until the later rounds where he's really going to step on the gas. You didn't even get that idea. You just got the idea that Charlo was in there surviving. Right? This fight, apart from me losing, not just the bet, I had Charlo, but also the hedge. I had the fight going, I believe, under 10.5 rounds or something like that, right? Inside of the distance. Right? I lost on this fight. Maybe I'm bitter. Tell me about how I'm bitter in the comment section. If you feel I'm being unfair here, go ahead and tell me about that in the comment section. But this is that bet you lose, where you're just frustrated. You're thinking to yourself, man, why isn't this guy trying to draw a line in the sand? What's the method to the madness? He had the footwork working, right? He's moving around the ring away from Canelo, right? But he just didn't have the offense. He didn't even try to have the offense. Let me point out too, let's get wonkish. Let me point out the problems with what he did have. Now first, you know, one of the biggest knockout punchers in heavyweight history, quite frankly, is Rocky Marciano. Right? Look at his career KO percentage. By the way, Marciano fought a guy, a light heavyweight. A great one, but a light heavyweight. And that's one of the few times in Marciano's heavyweight run where he gets dropped. Right? A guy who weighed lighter than him, Archie Moore, researched that fight. Right? Archie Moore, a light heavyweight. We're talking 175. We're not talking cruiser at 200. Cruiser didn't exist back then. A light heavyweight was fighting Rocky Marciano and decided he was going to land his punches. Right now, sadly for Archie, the referee spent some time in that fight, right, allowing Marciano to get up, wiping Marciano's gloves, and then, of course, Marciano showed that he was a power puncher and stopped Archie Moore. Right? Had I lost this fight that way, I'd live with it. I'd say, well, Canelo's a hell of a puncher. Well, my guy went for broke. He didn't. So, Marciano fought another guy. He's another great. Ezzard Charles. The first time they fight, according to those ringside, Ezzard Charles's back never touches the ropes for most of the fight. Right? It's not until the later rounds that Ezzard Charles's back touches the ropes. Right? Now that's folklore. Just understand here, I was watching Jermell Charlo and his back was up against the ropes. I thought, what is he doing? Let's just say I would have preferred for Charlo to be around the middle of the ring. Give himself some place to go. Not have Canelo there flashing a left hook with Charlo between him and the ropes. Let's also talk about that left hook. It really is that much better than Canelo's right hand. Right? Just understand, if you're a high-level fighter, particularly if you're a righty, like Jermell Charlo is, you have an opportunity against the left hooker to load up and throw your right hand. Just imagine you're facing me. Right? Your right hand would be on this side. If I'm throwing a left hook, you have an opportunity, since you want to roll away from my left hook, to load up on right hands and to roll with the punch. In other words, you hit me with a big right hand and then you roll this way away from my left hook. Right? You understand that. I didn't see Charlo loading up on right hooks. I just didn't. It's even worse than that. You're fighting Canelo. The last place you want to be is in the pocket. I saw Charlo throwing left jabs, trying to jab Canelo. How is that going to help you, player? You're throwing a left jab. I'm Canelo. I want you in the pocket so I can unload my right hook. Wouldn't you be better off throwing your own? Excuse me. I want to hit you with my left hook. Wouldn't you be better off throwing a right hook that takes you away from the left hand? Let me also say this too. Let's talk about Canelo's right. Now understand, this is one man's opinion. Canelo throws a better straight right, in my opinion. It's a judgment call. Then he does a right hook. So if I'm going to take chances with any Canelo hook, it's going to be his right hook, not his left hook. Not only that, because Canelo throws a straight right. Look at the last punch of the Kovalev fight. Right? Canelo hits him with a left hook first. Kovalev goes toward Canelo's right side. Canelo lines him up and throws a straight right hand. That's Canelo's best punch from his right side. So one would have thought that Charlo would be moving around more in the center of the ring, that Charlo would be loading up on left hooks, and Charlo would throw the punch in such a way that the punch takes him outside of Canelo's straight right. That's not the fight Charlo fought. I was looking at the fight. I couldn't understand what Charlo was setting up. Let me also point out too, Charlo is so lost in space, so to speak, that he gets dropped by Canelo's straight right hand. Right? Charlo, unprepared for it. And of course, where is Charlo when he gets dropped? In the worst place, in my opinion, you could be against Canelo. Right? Up against the ropes. So Canelo gets him up against the ropes. Where is Charlo? In the pocket. That's a hazardous place to be against Canelo. What does Canelo hit him with? Not some novel punch. No, you understand. Canelo, great left hook, upstairs and down low. Great straight right hand. Canelo hits him with the great straight right hand. Right? Charlo, too. Canelo's a shorter guy. But Charlo's standing too upright, isn't he? I want people to rerun that knockdown. I believe it's in the 7th round. Right? One wonders why Charlo is hanging around the pocket, by the ropes, with his back up against the ropes. Right? Available to get hit with one of Canelo's signature punches. So let's just say, I didn't like the spirit of the fight. Right? Charlo doesn't take the crowd out of it or grab the crowd and have them with him. He's not flurrying in the last 20 seconds of the round like Ray Leonard. Right? There's none of that. He's not trying to convince the judges or convince the fans that he's won the round by stealing the last 20 seconds. There's not enough Ray Leonard in Jermell Charlo. Then you notice Charlo's over by the ropes. Folks, look at the Amir Khan-Canelo fight. That's a better fight by an opponent, right? Khan is showing hand speed. Where is Khan? Around the middle of the ring. Now Canelo catches up with him. But take that fight. You understood, Khan is showing hand speed. Khan's game is to rough Canelo up with combinations. Let's name another signature fight where a guy jumps to a weight class. You remember Kell Brook jumping up from 147 to 160 to fight Golovkin. Now, okay, Golovkin caught up with them. Okay, fine. Right? But understand, early in that fight, what does Kell Brook do? Kell Brook is flashing hand speed for at least a couple rounds of that fight. You thought, oh man, what's Golovkin gonna do? You thought, wow, Kell Brook is here and he wants the middleweight title. You were looking at that fight. Kell Brook puts on a show, doesn't he? Until the power becomes too much. Here, we got Jermell Charlo going 12 rounds without him putting on a show. Right? It's worse than that. You heard the judges scoring. He didn't steal rounds. The judges thought he was losing rounds from pretty much the opening bell. Right now, I can look back at Archie Moore against Marciano and I can say, hey, Archie was this close to the heavyweight title. Right? Archie Moore, Hall of Famer, the old mongoose, great fighter. Right? Helped George Foreman, by the way. It was part of George Foreman's corner for years. Right? But you look back and you say, oh, Archie Moore against Marciano, that's one of the interesting moments of Marciano's reign. Right? You look at Manny Pacquiao against Oscar and you say, wow, that's a signature part of Manny Pacquiao's career. Right? You look at Kell Brook against Golovkin and you say, wow, Kell Brook did look good. Okay, punching power started to matter, but after that fight, you thought, wow, Kell Brook tried to hold it down. How many of you are going to have that level of excitement thinking about this fight? Right? Jermell Charlo came in. He must have had the over in the fight. Right? Yes, he survived the fight. Let's just say the fight was ho-hum. Right? You understood before Canelo got the knockdown in the 7th round that Canelo was way on his way to a victory. Even the knockdown in the 7th round, it wasn't like Jermell Charlo was throwing big shots and you thought, oh man, these guys are trading. And then Canelo got the best of the trading. No. Jermell Charlo's over by the ropes. He has his hands up. He's surviving. He's in survival mode. You would have thought this was an episode of Survivor. Not a real challenge to Canelo's 4 belts at 168 pounds. Right? So I was disappointed by this fight. Jermell Charlo is certainly a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to take that away from him. But this is not one of the exciting fights on his resume. Right? I lost on a fight. It's okay. I won on the Erickson-Lubin fight. That also went off at greater than a plus 300. So I get to live for another day. But let's just say I wouldn't have minded losing this fight if I thought Jermell Charlo was in there trying to win it and not just survive. That's the fight I saw. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.